Hi teacher, today we'll tell you about the Snow White story. Let's start. Once upon a time, the great castle. The prince daughter grew up and happy the contestant. Despite of the generous stepmom, she was really pretty and with blue eye and long black hair. Her skin and her cheeks are fair, so she was called Snow White. Everyone was quite sure she would become the very beautiful people. Though her stepmom was wicked woman, she too very beautiful, and her magic mirror told her this every day wherever she added. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the loveliest lady in the land? The living was always said, "You are, your majesty." Until the different day when he would say, "Snow White is the loveliest in the land." The stepmom was furniture. Furner and were generous, began footing to the rig in a river. Calling one of her trusted servants, she brought him with a rich road to take Snow White into the forest. Was far away to the castle. Then, unseen, he was to put her down. The greatest servant attempted to reward, agreed to do this time. He let another little girl away. However, when they come to the farthest spot, the man could following him and leaving Snow White sitting beside a tree. He must be an excuse and ran off. Snow White was alone in the forest. Night come, but the servant is not returned. Snow White, alone with a dark forest, began to cry bitterly. She thought she could feel Tide's light stepping on her, and she heard strange sound, and riches make her hurt thumb. At last, overcome by tiredness, she fell asleep cooling under a tree. Snow White slept fitfully, waking from time to time with stars and starting into the darkness around her. Several times, she threw her feet sometime, or somebody took her as he slept. At night, Dolly worked the forest to the song of bird. The Snow White too awoke, and all the world are selling to her life, and the little girl was sad to see how selling her life and her feel has been. However, she think a tree is what like world around her, and as she tried to find out where she was, she came a past pain. She waked alone, hopefully on her wicked till she come to clearing and soft strange contact with tiny door, tiny window, and a tiny chimney pot. Everything about her contest must be tinier than ought to be. Snow White pushed the door open. "I wonder who living here," she said to herself, sleeping round kitchen. "What tiny plates and spoons! There must be 7 of them. The table lent to 7 people. Up then it was bedroom with 7 neat little bed." Going back to kitchen, Snow White had an idea. "I will make something to eat. When they come home, they will be glad to find the meal ready for takers. 7 tiny maids marching homeward singing, but when they opened the door, they were surprised. They found a bowl of hot steaming soup on the table, and they all speak and span. Upstairs was Snow White fast asleep to one of bed that chef door, praying her gently. "Who are you?" he said. Snow White told them her sad story. Then tears ran her dark eye. Then one of them said, "He knows the bed, he knows. Stay here with us." "Hooray! Hooray!" They cheered, dancing joyful round the little girl. The chef said, "Snow White, you can live here and tend our house. Why, we were down mine. Don't worry about your stepmom living in the forest. We'll love you and we take care of you." Snow White reformed and sat there to hospitality, and next morning they set off for work. But there was no one not to open the door straight. Meanwhile, the 7 has returned to cast. With her head to Roder, she gave to close stepmom, telling her belonged to Snow White, so that her could claim rewards. Highly pleased, the stepmom returned again to Magic Meadow, but her hope were that tomorrow day, the loveliest in the land, is still Snow White, who living a 7-dove contest down in the forest. The stepmom was beside herself with want. "She must die, she must die," she screamed it. Dishes herself an old woman. She put the pounded apple with odor, her blanket, and taking her quickless way into the forest, she close-stepped and her egg of a tree. She taken us back unseen, just as Snow White first waving goodbye to 7 days. They always met Snow White in the kitchen when her husband saw at the door. "Cluck, cluck, who there?" She caught it surprisingly, remembering Dolph that. "I'm an old peasant woman selling apple," came the reply. "I don't need any apple, thank you." "Thank you," she replied, "but they are beautiful apple and really juicy," said brilliant voice with outside the door. "I'm not supposed to open the door to anyone," said the little girl, was of that her friend. "And quite right too, good girl. If you promise you not open up to stream, then of course you can buy. You are a good giantess." Then the old woman worked on. "And the reward to being good, I'm going to make gift for one of my apple." Without her furniture, though, Snow White opened the door and Tiny cracked to take an apple. "There, now is a nice apple." Snow White bit into the fruit, and as she did, feel around the flesh and the thighs. Tariff Ponson lifeless, intestine novelty. Now tracking alive, her wicked stepmom heard her off, and at her reins rocked and stepped. He tripped it and fell into the quicksand. No one had her cry to help, and deception without a trick. Meanwhile, the dad came out with a might of fight in the sky. No. The sky that's grown dark and stormy. Loud thunder with though and rally stick on the lightning rift sky, whirling above Snow White. They ran as quickly and as could down with the mountain to contest. They found Snow White, lying still and lifeless. The spawned apple with her side. They did their best to bring her around, but it was not use. They was wet for a long time, then they lay on her bed of no protest, calling to her into the forest and put her in crystal confetti. At day, they let a flower there, and they over the context strange young man different Snow White lovely face through the class. After listening her story, the prince, for her was prince, makes subjection. If you allow me to take her of custody, I will call in the famous doctor to wake her from this thrilling state. She was lovely, and this I just to kiss her. He did, and as though by magic, the prince broke the spell to everyone as Snow meant. Snow White opened her eyes. Wow. That amazing come back to life. Now in love, the princess asked Snow White to marry him and say goodbye to Snow White. From that day on, Snow White lived happily a grateful princess from time to time. She would drop back to visit the little content down in the forest. The end of story. Thank you for listening. I think my voice is not good, but I try my best.